Welcome to Hey, Great Shot. This is the Great Shot Podcast, a Cracked Rackets and Tennis Channel Podcast Network production. My name is Alex Gruskin. On tonight's show, we've got another live edition of The Deciding Point, our weekly breakdown of everything happening in the Division I college tennis world. Of course, here on Wednesday nights, we break down the Division I men's action. Week 11 of the 2024 season now officially in the books. It was a relatively calm weekend in terms of searching for upsets, but again, it's the end of month number 3 of the season. What is every team trying to do? They're trying to consolidate their positions or continue to move up the rankings as all of us now turn an eye towards the NCAA tournament in May. Of course, before we get to breaking down Week 11, let me just say once again here tonight, it is so good to be back live on our Cracked Rackets YouTube channel. I get to show off our recently renovated Cracked Rackets studio. A shout out, as always, for Westoff. If you think I did any of the designing of this studio, you just haven't been paying attention these last 7 years. But of course, part B, the best part, is we get to interact, engage with all of you in the college tennis community. We're well aware we wouldn't have the opportunities that we do without you. And so, of course, a thank you to all of you who are joining us here live tonight, whether it's on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, whatever it may be. If you have questions, comments, or you want to just engage with something we said, throw them in the chat. I'll be able to see them. Obviously, if it's a good comment, certainly I will choose to engage with it. But our hope for the rest of this season, since I will be relatively more steady in my travel schedule, is to be live each and every episode of The Deciding Point moving forward. That means Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, we'll talk women's with John Parsons. Of course, here on Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, we will hopefully be joined each and every week by the man you all see on the screen alongside of me. Of course, all of you know him best as the forefather of the College Tennis Ranks Formula Predictions, never far from the listed UTR, the lean, mean Michigan Wolverine, the professor, and yes, he's coming to us from the Cracked Rackets coding cabin. It's Chris Halioris joining me once again. Chris, hey, great shot. Welcome back to the show. It's good to be live, isn't it, my friend? How are you doing tonight?
Yeah, I feel like we're at least halfway through the conference season, which means at least 2/3 of the way through the season, and we finally got live.
Yeah. Well, it helps that I'm not on a plane every week.
Yeah.
Looking forward for the next 4. It helps that we have the cameras stationary in one location as well. You know what else helps, Chris? And I alluded to it there at the start. Daniel Westoff finally has someone, dare I say, his equal, if not maybe even more so, in the production department. And a shout out to you who have not only been steering the ship, but behind the scenes, you've been doing so much to help make our cross-court cast that much better in this 2024 season, of course, most notably. So huge for us to be able to be 3 conferences wide on ESPN Plus, Big 12, ACC, SEC. We've got the Big 10 on Sundays on our Cracked Rackets YouTube channel as well. That's going to continue, by the way, every Thursday, Friday, Sunday for the remainder of the season. So make sure you tune into the coverage. How has it been for you to be able to steer your own ship? I mean, literally, the college tennis world, Chris, they see SEC tennis through your eyes.
It's been a lot of fun. It's a whole different world when you're doing both the behind the scenes and out front. But yeah, that's been a lot of fun this year. I just love watching college tennis, period. And of course, the SEC is where I grew up watching college tennis. So always good to be there. But yeah, that's been great this year.
Yeah, and certainly we've got some SEC teams we want to talk about on tonight's show, where, as always, we will do what we do best. We're going to recap Week 11 of the season. We're going to offer our rankings coming out of the week. We'll preview Week number 12, and then, in honor of our first live show, and I want to agree with Nathan Campbell, this was a long time coming this season. It is good to be back. We will have a special guest joining us for our final segment of the show, where we're going to get into some fun topics, fake trades, who's the guy, some questions lingering as we look towards the end of this 2024 season. I promise it's going to be fun. So, folks, stick around if you're with us live. And, of course, if you're listening to this on the Great Shot podcast feed, make sure you do listen to the end, as I promise you're not going to want to miss our final segment of the show. But, of course, as always, Chris, let's start with the biggest results from Week 11 of this 2024 Division I men's college tennis season. The place we, of course, have to start is in the state of Texas, where for the second time this season, the University of Texas took on TCU. Of course, last time it was a 4-3 thriller, a match where TCU, after dropping, I believe, 5 first sets in singles, they worked their way all the way back with Jake Fernley clinching over Elliot Spizzirri for a 4-3 victory. Now, I think it's important to preface our coverage of this match by noting this was a shorthanded TCU team. Didn't have Seb Gorsny singles nor doubles. Jake Fernley was available, but he pulled an Iñaki Montez. And what do I mean by that? He wasn't, willing his team forward with a new propelled sort of energy. No, he was serving underhand, which is, I guess, just one of the wrinkles we will add to this 2024 campaign when we look back upon it. But obviously, shorthanded TCU, that's going to hamper them, particularly against a Texas team that even when they are shorthanded, obviously they've got the depth to not only compete with absolutely anyone, even on the team's best days, their depth might be better than yours. And look, this was a one-sided affair. Texas wins the doubles point, wins at 2-3. They win 3 straight set matches, fairly straightforward as well. I think by the time of clinch, actually, they ended up winning 4 straight set matches. Braswell, GA, PY, and then, Spizzirri ultimately a 14-12 third set tiebreak victory over JPJ. But again, straight sets 2, 3, and 4. No Gorsny, underhand serving Fernley at 2 kind of makes sense given the configuration of the TCU lineup on that day. But this is where I want to start, Chris Halioris. Texas, after losing round of 16 at the National Indoors, they had to beat Ohio State. They had to go at least 1-1 against TCU in regular season play just to ensure they would be top 8 regardless of what happens in the conference tournament. Chris, they've done that. Again, they get the 2 signature victories, maybe the best 2 signature victories any team could have at this point of the season. And it's just, again, I would argue on one side of the equation, I still have no idea what the ceiling of this 2024 Texas group is. On the other side of the equation, congratulations. You took care of business at home in the month of March. Chris, they're back in the conversation. Like they have built themselves a spot in the inner circle.
Yeah, well, hey, we're back to the 4 teams in the top 4 that we said were the top 4 coming into the year for the first time.
That's a good point. Texas back up to number 4 in the computer rankings as a result of this win.
Yeah, I mean, that's it feels like a little bit of normalcy returned, and I feel like there's a little flip of what we think about some of these teams from just how healthy and where they are at this point in the season. I was gonna, I know you love to do these things. I was gonna play a little game with you and say, hey, if I take those top 4 teams and for every one of them off the top of your head, one word, the team is blank. Where are you? Texas is back, right? I mean, that's where we got to be with Texas. What do you say when I say TCU is?
Oh, first of all, I don't know if I would say Texas is back. I would say Texas is rising. I would say Texas is returning to form, which is 3 words, and so I'm cheating there because, you can't say this was their best match, given the fact that it was a shorthanded TCU team. You just can't measure this TCU win as equal to what a TCU win on paper looks like. On the TCU side of the equation, I mean, they already did the hard work with how well they scheduled through the first 2 months of the season for them to get wins over Wake Forest and A&M, who's continues to get, play really well in SEC conference play. And who else have they beaten in non-conference play? I think they got a win over Tennessee. I think maybe they even have 2 wins over Wake Forest. The point is they have a win over Texas as well from their home match there. TCU's fine. TCU is unhealthy would be the word I would choose right now for the Horned Frogs. So I really don't read anything out of this for TCU. It's the other side of the equation for Texas. This was a match they had to win, and in particular, they needed doubles points. They've been looking for continuity. They switched up the lineup. The reigning NCAA finalists, Harper, Spizzirri, are All-American champions, if not finalists. Maybe they were semifinalists last year. I apologize if I'm incorrect there, but they're no longer the number 1 pairing. Spizzirri's at 3 with Braswell. It's PY and Telluri at that number 2 spot. And, it's a 2021 redux as they bring back Spizzirri and Waldeep to the top spot. I still think they're working Waldeep back slowly into singles form. I think GA is starting to find his footing as freshman typically do when they're of his level in month number 3 on the job. I just think this team is still gelling. And even after a win like today, I hesitate to say they've found their ceiling yet.
No, I mean, I think that's fair. I think that, but I think rising is a good word. My point was more like, I think now I feel like it's flipped where we were all wondering where is Texas previously, and TCU is in good shape. Now it feels like Texas, the momentum is all with them. And the question is, it's not about form or anything else. It's just about health. Like, where is TCU health wise, and what are they going to be for the next month?
Yeah.
Right.
No,
I mean, that's the question.
absolutely. And again, looking at the stats for each of these teams, you look for Texas right now. It's worth, and we'll have this discussion later as we get into the guy discussion, who is that player right now. But Micah Braswell's 14-0 in dual match play. That's ridiculous. And like Spiz is 13-2. He's having another really good season, but 14-0 is something special. GA's now 10-2 overall as well. Like, they're just starting to find some locks in the singles lineup, Chris. And again, this is a team that's 29-13 in individual dual match double sets. That's way better on paper than it feels like they've been in reality. And so, again, as this Texas team continues to search for its best, they're now back in position to at least make life easier for themselves. Wins over Ohio State, TCU this month. Obviously, the TCU side of the equation, again, I think they're fine. I think JPJ he's not the guy right now, but he's a guy in waiting. He's 11-3 overall. Maxted 12-2 overall on the year. Fernley, when healthy, looked like he might be the best player in college tennis this season. So I think the Horned Frogs are feeling just fine coming off of that loss in Austin. And again, that makes their win over Texas in Fort Worth that much more valuable moving forward. So credit to Texas. They ultimately, again, 5 love victors over TCU and back up to number 4 now in the ITA computer rankings. Chris, again, you mentioned it. We kind of knew who the top 4 teams were before the start of the season. The debate over who's number 5, though, was a significant one for us in December. And right now, you look at the ITA team rankings, the number 5 team in the country is a team who didn't even qualify for the national indoors, as they got knocked off kickoff weekend by Alabama. Of course, I am alluding to now 16-2 Kentucky. Chris Halioris, 16-2 Kentucky Wildcats, who had another 2-0 weekend, this time 4-3 over Texas A&M, as well as 4-0 over Auburn. I mean, looking at the stats for where this team has thrived so far, Chris Halioris, bottom of the lineup, just the depth that has been provided with the addition of the freshmen Loudon and Stevenson. You add that with Weeks, Kosne, the sophomores, getting healthy as well in the middle of that lineup. Body, Lapidot playing, 660 ball at those 1 and 2 spots. And if they're winning 2/3 of their matches, they're doing things right. Now, I still think this team has a lot of room to improve in doubles, particularly at that 3 spot where they've already played 5 different pairings. So clearly they're searching. But again, you look for Kentucky, 4-3 over A&M, 4-0 over Auburn. Chris, they are the only undefeated team in the SEC right now, 7-0 through conference play. You've had a front seat to it. Is it time to start taking this team a little bit more seriously as it relates to national championship aspirations?
I mean, you have to at this point. Look, Stevenson still hasn't lost a match.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Freshman. Yeah, and as a freshman, the bottom of their lineup's just been unbelievable, and that had to be coming into the season. That's where the questions were, because let's be honest, Kosne and Weeks weren't even great last year. I mean, there was a lot of room for improvement there, so we didn't know what we were going to see. And Weeks is actually up in the top half playing 3, but I mean, between Body and Lapidot, that's where you knew what you had. And the questions were all going to be, what are we going to see out of Loudon and Stevenson? And what's Weeks going to come back with? And those guys have been just rocks. They've been tremendous. And if they're going to get that from the bottom of the lineup, I'll take Lapidot and Body, with a chance to split against anybody on any given day. So they're right there.
Well, the most amazing thing is they beat A&M without Eli Stevenson in the lineup. He was out, must be dealing with an injury. And again, they take doubles. They get straight set wins at 2, 3, and 4 against an A&M team where the middle of the lineup has been, dare I say, the best spots in their lineup. And, again, against Auburn, it was 1, 3, and 5. All straight set victories. Loudit, Weeks, Body. They take the doubles point there as well. So they are continuing to get better and finding some answers there as they continue to play around with teams. But this is exactly what I said, Chris Halioris, about this Kentucky team after seeing those freshmen compete in the fall. I had more questions about how Lapadot and Body would do at 1 and 2 than I did about how Steven, again, I thought Laudit, and he did to start the season, play a little bit higher in the lineup, but he struggled. They've moved him down, and he has thrived. The biggest part, to your point, is that Kosnay and Weeks have both stepped up into the middle of the lineup. You look for Kosnay, who this year 13 and 1 overall, 8 and 1 at the 4 spot. Weeks is 10 and 3. He's 9 and 3 at 3. Those guys were playing 500 ball last year at 5 and 6. Kosnay was even under 500 at points last year. But it's just, again, their story's kind of similar to Wake Forest. I think they're very similar teams. I think Suresh is probably a little bit better of an option than whomever the number 2 is on any given day for Kentucky. But, again, I hope we get a Pau Coons Stevenson, Loudit 5-6 matchups at some point in the season, because those have arguably been the 2 teams with the best 5 and 6 in the country. And when we do our fake trades, this is where I would love. I mean, I'm just planting this seed now, Chris Halioris. Kentucky has the perfect roster to where if trades were allowed, they could make an ultimate blue chip win now move, where they could be like, hey, we'll give you don't answer how you would feel about this trade now, but this is what we call a tease in the business. I think a Weeks, pick your Stevenson, Loudit, whichever one you like more, package could go get you an Antoine Cornut-Chovink, could go get you a Murphy Cassone. And now all of a sudden you'd look at this lineup and you'd be like, wait a second, this team could maybe win a freaking national championship this year. My question as we, again, relax on Kentucky, what is your biggest question about them right now? Because, again, they're undefeated in conference play, and it's not like they've played exclusively cupcakes. Again, they get a win in Lexington, albeit, but over A&M. They've beaten Mississippi State, Florida, LSU, Alabama. Vandy's obviously coming off of a pretty good weekend as well. Now they've beaten Auburn, too. Those are the tournament teams in the SEC, and they're running through them.
Yeah, I think my question, honestly, no matter who they're playing at this point, like I said, it's flipped, and I look at doubles in the top 3, and my question is, when they play the top teams, can they split that?
Yeah.
If they can take those 4 matches and split them, if they can go 2 and 2 in those 4, I'll take their bottom 3 to win 2 against anyone.
Yeah, they're a really, really good team. I don't know if they're great, but they are a really, really good team. Now, on the A&M side of things, I think they're still looking for that first signature victory. They've had a lot of good wins, but that top-tier win, I think they're more 6 through 12 than they are top 5, top 4, inner circle. But again, 4-3 on the road in Lexington. It continues to show you this A&M team is really good. And on the right day, they're going to beat you. They can just hang with everyone.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, they've got, honestly, they've got that win over Tennessee, and everything else is, Mississippi State, and then it's all 20 and down kind of thing. It's just solid, but nothing that's made you step up outside. I would say, the Tennessee one was kind of the eye opener. That's the one where you thought, wow, they have a shot here in the SEC. But no, I think they're solid. They're not in that top tier conversation.
Yeah, just a reminder, who was high on Kentucky to start the season? I don't remember. There's so many different, as you have your SEC champs. I love the hat, by the way. That's good branding. By the way, I had this litigated with Jay for those on the live show can hear it. NCAA champ hats in the background, right? That's fair. That's and the Auburn bucket hat because I just really like it. But maybe we'll make that third position our team of the week every week, and we'll start figuring that out moving forward. But again, Kentucky's really good. A&M absolutely a top 16 team. It's a tough loss for Auburn to lose it in the definitive fashion that they did, but I mean, again, Auburn is solid. I don't think anyone had them as top 16 or beyond coming into the weekend. Had they beaten Kentucky, that certainly would have been a surprise. Still, the Wildcats, they're 5 in the rankings right now. 5, Chris Halioris, and they didn't even make the national indoors. Filed under things.
4 in the live rankings for next week already.
Filed under things you just don't see every day. Of course, Kentucky, a big winner in the rankings so far this year. You know how else has been a big winner? A team who's been top 8 pretty much from the start. That, of course, is Arizona, who puts up another big weekend out in California and kind of proves Chris Halioris that they're the class of the Pac-12 right now. Arizona, 4-love win, albeit over a shorthanded, obviously, USC team. But the 4-1 win over UCLA, that was particularly notable. And I know it was a rainy weekend out in California, but again, Arizona business-like. They're able to get their matches in. You look at that UCLA victory in particular for Arizona, how they were able to do it. They were able to take the doubles point wins at the 1 and 3 spot, 6-2 wins there. And then Chris, again, straight set win for Colton Smith over Govinanda. He's not, depending, again, how high Arizona climbs probably dictate how high Colton Smith climbs in the guy conversation. They get then, then everything else is a grind. Like, this match was a very good match, but in the end, Hoyer all at 4, 7-6 in the third over Gianluca Ballotta. Jay Friend 6-2 in the third over Giacomo Ravelli. That's a really good win. Like, again, particularly with how UCLA pushed them. 4-1 in name only. But the Wildcats are ready for that sort of match. And again, like, Chris, you look at their resume now. They're 16-2. 16-2 overall on the year. What are their 2 losses? They lost to someone at the National Indoors. I want to say Wake, or TCU maybe, one of the 2.
Wake Forest and San Diego.
Yeah, Wake Forest. Okay. Those are 5. And the San Diego match, if my memory serves me correct, was 4-3. Like, this team has a win over Texas as well, indoors. This team is really good. Like, again, I know Lagayev Christensen didn't finish, but both of them were in 3-set matches. That's where we had our big questions entering the season, and so far they've been just fine. The Jay Friend fall jump is real. Clearly, he's continued to have success in dual match play. I think this team's much better at doubles than we expected to start the year as well. They are the class of the Pac-12. Like, especially, I'm sorry, I won't buy Stanford stock until May 4th. When then it starts to become interesting. It's like, you know what? I'll take a flyer on Stanford. Until then, Arizona is the heavy favorites to sweep both Pac-12 titles.
Yeah, I mean, look, at this point, USC obviously we know is going to have a rough year with the injuries. UCLA, they took care of them. It was close, but pretty convincingly. It really comes down to Arizona, Stanford, and I'm with you in that I just don't know what to make out of Stanford, and they're going to have to finish a regular season and play a conference tournament and be spectacular in both of them for me to buy into them at this point. Like, they've got to win, one of those, or I'm still not sold, and probably going to struggle to take them to get out of the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament.
Yeah. I mean, again, I like that this has been hijacked into a Stanford segment. The talent is all there. And so, and they've got some big weekends coming up where we are going to learn more about the Cardinals, certainly moving forward. But again, for this Arizona team, like, Colton Smith is really good at 1, and he's just a dog out there. Like, he is going to scrap his tail off. Gustav Strom's not going to miss a ball at 3. Friend is kind of a maniac in the best way, like that wild card of energy and firepower you need in the lineup. Hoyer, we always said in the bottom half of the lineup, like, that's a guy you just want, whether it's 4, 5, 6, wherever it is he's playing. But again, the real thing is Lagayev and Christensen are real options at 5 and 6, and you didn't know that going into the season. And again, the depth that provides, this team just, they probably feel like they walk on the court, we're going to win 3 of the top 4. And we just got to find one more everywhere else. And when they go up 1-0, the confidence that gives them, the energy they play with. I will say, sneaky best freshman in the country is UCLA's Spencer Johnson. Big lefty, Chris. Like, just bazookas for a serves and volleys, gets in. Like, that is a great piece for the Bruins moving forward. And again, the Bruins were right there. Like, this was a 4-1 match. Bruins play everyone tight when they're at home in LA, as they were in this one. I do think if you're UCLA, again, this was a. Although, did they lose to Arizona State? They might have lost to Arizona State in the follow-up match on the weekend. Let me check my results. Survey says Arizona State did beat UCLA 4-2. So that's a tough 0-2 weekend for an otherwise talented team. But yeah, like Arizona's the class of the Pac-12, and yeah, I like they're probably the only top 16 team, right?
Yeah, UCLA has only got one loss outside of, well, okay, Harvard isn't top 10 anymore. They're 11, but
Yeah.
beyond Harvard at 11, only one loss, and that was to Arizona State.
Sure. That
Every other loss they have is basically, their top 10 teams.
Yeah.
So,
What makes it tough is it
really
was a
hard.
home
The problem
loss.
is the ranking's not that high
Yeah.
because they've managed to play all those really top teams and lose them, and they just don't have enough in the win column. That they don't have enough matches in. So when they get those in, they're gonna they are better than their ranking would show them at 30 or whatever, wherever they are right now, somewhere in that area.
Yeah, I agree. I also, again, like I don't think they're gonna. It's hilarious. There's only gonna be one top 16 team out west, and there are a lot of really talented teams out there, and it's just gonna be fascinating to see where they all get dispersed in those opening weekends of the NCAA tournament. Because like if Arizona State's coming to you, if UCLA's coming to you, if Stanford's coming to you, and they're probably all gonna be on the road those opening weekends. Heck, even the Trojans, like the shell of what we thought was gonna be a really good USC team, like they're all just gonna be really dangerous outs.
Arizona State's got a good chance to make a top 16, but
Do they? Like the problem is they're 17 right now. They're not going to get help. Like NC State might have lost to Wake Forest tonight, but they've got a lot of good wins. Like they've got that Duke win, which is really, and they're just going to have more opportunities moving forward in the ACC. Like Arizona State, if they don't beat Arizona, the value of a UCLA win, who right now UCLA is sitting at 28, the value of a Stanford win, they're 33, the value of
they're counting a win over a number 62 right now.
yeah, like but
the Arizona State's got plenty of room to help themselves.
yeah,
is what I'm saying.
but who's left? I guess. Yeah, you know what? Fine.
Well, you got the conference tournament.
Yeah,
So
and they need to start rooting for Michigan to beat Michigan State, to beat Illinois, because they've got 2 wins over the Wolverines. And again, like the higher the Wolverines are ranked, the more likely they are top 16. You're right. It's a bubble chase. God, if they need to win over Arizona in the Pac-12 tournament to be a top 16 seed, boy, wouldn't that?
Yeah, I don't think it'll go that far. If that's the match they get in the final, what they got to hope is that they don't have to run into them before potentially getting, that however the draws line up, they need to be on the side where they can get a shot, say at Stanford, maybe.
Yeah.
But
or
somehow,
UCLA again. Like get another win over the Bruins, because again, that is a solid squad moving forward. But again, the big winners: Arizona 4-1 over UCLA, 4-0 over the USC Trojans. Chris, we didn't have that many headline results in Week 11, so what I want to do next is move to a topic I want to call weekends I think people should know about, because there were a bunch of different teams that I would say had good, not great weekends over the course of week. No, excuse me, not good, not great weekends. They had great weekends relative to what their expectations are to start the year, but again, not exactly results that will move them into the top 16 or anything like that moving forward. Still, let's start with some teams we've mentioned, and if we weren't live, I would have re-recorded that. But we're live again, so you all got to hear that, and I apologize for the starting. These teams had great weekends, and they're weekends you need to know about. Chris Halioris, as we move towards NCAA tournament time. Let's start with a team I know you're always watching closely, the Mississippi State Bulldogs, who had a horrendous start. By the way, another team, Arizona State, wants to play well down the season's home stretch. Mississippi State, obviously, the disaster of a kickoff weekend. They go 0-2 at home, losses to VCU and Florida State, respectively. They got some back this weekend. 2 dramatic 4-3 wins, a win over Florida, a win over South Carolina. By the way, South Carolina is your 4-3 darlings of 2024. Just know that if the South Carolina men are on the schedule, they're playing a 4-3 match somewhere on that day. But Mississippi State needed this, Chris Halioris, and you're the expert on the Bulldogs. You're the expert on these 2 matches in particular. Talk to me through who's playing well, and is this a sign of hope for Mississippi State that they can get back in that top 16 conversation, start looking towards maybe making a final sight run, which certainly was the Bulldogs' aspiration to start the season?
Yeah, I think the problem. So there's a couple things they've got going for them. One, this was the second weekend back now for Navansky in doubles. So Navansky played, I think he played one doubles at the end of last year with Memo, and he had hip surgery or some sort of surgery here in the offseason. Hasn't played period all year. Came back last week. Not going to be in shape to be playing singles, but a big part of their doubles lineup, and that's been a big boost for them in the doubles point in particular, and he's getting to play down at three doubles with just ridiculous hands.
Yeah.
So that's a big boost. And I think the singles are coming around for them. The big concern for me is still six. They don't have an answer at six. Period. If they play the top teams, they're given a point up there. But everybody else, it was a cast of characters. Different guys on different days. The first match, of the weekend, it was Milanovic coming up big and the transfer from Presbyterian clinching for him. In the second match, it's Hernandez against Beneto and a third set breaker to decide the match, which was tremendous. But everybody in that top five, and the standout to me all year, other than when he was sick, has been Benito Sanchez Martinez at five. He, I would in say an SEC tournament match, if they're healthy, he and a Kentucky five that's just gonna be a battle. That's the top level of fives that we've got out there. Everybody can fight. Milanovic is just sort of he's a wild card, right? He could be tremendously on and then he could be tremendously off. Jovanovic is starting to come around to what we thought we were going to see from him this year. And maybe a blessing in disguise that he got off to a rough start because now he's playing two instead of one, and it's not a stack. I mean, he couldn't win at one. It was a very brutally bad start for him up there, and they're rounding into form, and I think they're going to be they're a dangerous team. They barring a bad loss, and this is a spot they're familiar with. They were right around the same situation last year where they needed a good solid win in the conference tournament to lock a top 16 berth. They're sort of in that spot now. And you and I probably we haven't talked about this. We've probably got the same opinion because you made the comment about Arizona State. I've looked through like 17 down, and I sort of have the same feeling where I look at them and I go, man, I'm not sure. Most years I can pick a team or two out where I go, they're going to have an opportunity to make the jump and push somebody out of the top 16. I don't see a ton of opportunity for teams that are going to that you feel like there's teams going to make a big move up. There's not a lot of teams with a lot of meat on the schedule, or you've kind of got South Carolina and Alabama there, but if you're battling other teams in the SEC, you got to like your chances if you're in the SEC already. Arizona State, not tons of opportunity. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of people going to get pushed out of those top 16 spots right now. I think they're sitting in a good spot for it, but this weekend did it. I mean, they were, I think, 19 last week or so coming in. They needed a big weekend. They certainly needed one of these road wins. And if they had to pick, they'd probably preferably take South Carolina because it provides more points. But boy, both of them was icing on the cake, and now it's just sort of hold serve.
Yeah, they have wins over South Carolina, Florida, LSU, Georgia. Their two losses in conference play to Kentucky and A&M. No shame in those. Like, this is a team rebounding. This is a team that does control its destiny. Up to 13 right now in the rankings. Who's left? Alabama, but they get them in Starkville. Tennessee, but they get them in Starkville. The at Auburn's the swing match. Like, that's one they got to take to be a top 16 team moving forward. But they have played themselves back into position after, again, a really rough opening month of the year. So shout out to the Bulldogs. Shout out to NC State. I know they lost a tough one today to Wake Forest, but everyone just about loses to Wake Forest here this season. Still, you look for this team now 12-5 overall on the year, Chris. They're coming off of a weekend 4-0 dominant wins over Louisville, over Notre Dame on the road. And look, again, Cattry's playing real number one ball. Like, his weapons, his ability to move forward, dictate, like, it can just make anyone uncomfortable. And again, didn't take a loss to Domenico, which many players would. They've been really good in the middle of the lineup. Staheli, really solid. Braden Schick has had a really good year. The big thing though, Chris, is it's just upperclassmen everywhere. Like this team is so experienced, and right now in the rankings, they're 16. I think this would be a year that Kyle Spencer, Chris James probably had circle as a year we should be a top 16 team given the continuity experience they have. They look the part. Like I agree with Johan in the chat. They are top 16 good.
Yeah, and they should, and that's a team that's obviously going to get plenty of opportunity, with the conference tournament of a lot of teams that are going to provide very valuable points. What you're really looking for, you're either a team that needs to jump up and beat a top 10 because you need a huge jump, or you're right there in the hunt in that, 14 to 18 or 19 range, and you just need some solid like top 25 or 30 wins, and they're going to have all kinds of opportunity for that.
Well, let me just
There's no
interject
reason.
quickly. Their last three matches of the season at Florida State, UNC, Duke at home. Like that's it right there. There's your runway.
Yeah, that's opportunity, and then conference tournament where you're going to get to play, some teams again that are in that same range. Get another shot, say at a North Carolina. There's plenty of opportunity for them. They should. I mean, they will make it if they deserve it. We'll put it that way. It's not going to be because they just didn't get the wins.
100.
They're either going to deserve it or they're not, coming down the
Much like
wire.
Mississippi State, they control their destiny now moving forward, which
Yep.
is really all you can ask for at this point. How about Cornell? 6-1, 4-1 win, excuse me, over a sneaky good Indiana team this year, and then 4-1 over a VCU team we've spent plenty of time talking about. You look for Cornell after this weekend. They're sitting at 31 in the rankings. Princeton right now, 30 in the IT rankings. Obviously, you mentioned Harvard 11, Columbia 9, but again, part of this is Cornell centric, and shout out Radu Popaway, continues to prove he's one of the best players in the country. But the Ivy League has four top 35 teams, Chris. Like Harvard and Columbia will have the opportunities to get ranked wins to be top 16 for sure. And if one of them runs the pathway, runs undefeated, Columbia in particular, they will be top 8. Like the ranked wins are just there now for the Ivy League, and Cornell's done its part.
Yeah, I mean, they're an interesting. You look at what they've done, and you said, what'd you say? They were 31.
Third,
I think
yeah,
they've got
right now
they've
31.
got one win over a team above better than that in the ranking. They've just put together a bunch of solid wins over teams like VCU and Middle Tennessee, and they got that one big one over Michigan State, right? And that's sort of the recipe if you're in the range where you think, hey, we're probably not battling a top 16. We'd like to not be battling the NCAA bubble. You put a schedule together that's got a bunch of teams that you think are going to be in that 30 to 60 or 70 range. And that's exactly what Cornell's done, right? They've got a bunch of teams in that range, and it puts them right there at in the top 30. And they've won more of those than they've lost, and that's put them in a great spot. And like you said, I mean, Popaway's been outstanding for them.
Yeah, so has Sinha too. Like they've been really solid at their. They're just a solid team. They deserve to be in that top 35. But yeah, they had a notable weekend again, 2-0, and then less notable, but Georgia and Alabama both had good weekends. Georgia 4 over Arkansas, that 4-1 win over LSU in particular. Again, they had to fight to get back into the NCAA tournament ranking range, and now they're back up to number 34. How about Alabama sitting at number 21? It's just clear their early season success deserved and real. This is one of George Husak's better teams, and again, one of the best guys you have in the business. Great to see him again get this program where they should be and back on the right track here this season. Both go 2-0 again, sweeping LSU, Arkansas. Chris, you got to see him in person. Any final thoughts on those two?
Yeah, I think Georgia is starting to look,
They were so young; it was always going to take a second.
yeah, they're starting to look better. They're playing well at home. I mean, yes, these are matches you would like to think you would win, coming in, but LSU's is a very sneaky good team, and they just never really let it. They got the matches at home. They never let it get close. They took care of business, and yeah, as you said, they fought their way back into the NCAA tournament at this point, and now it's a matter of just holding it there, which I think they should be able to safely do from where they are now.
Yeah, again, it will be fascinating to see. Georgia was always one of the most fascinating teams to circle, just given the seniors they lost from last year, the loss of Quinn, no Mickelson, no um,
Boosie didn't
Boosie,
come.
thank you, Ignacio, ultimately not showing up. And so, again, to see them bounce back in what is Manny Diaz's final season, certainly a storyline I think all of college tennis can rally behind. By the way, not my personal brand of congressperson, but I have some experience with congressional record statements. It was very cool to see Manny Diaz honored by any congressperson in the halls of Congress, what he's meant to our sports. Again, do people read congressional record statements? There are some really good ones written in 2017, Chris Halioris, and we'll leave that there. But no, I don't think they.
I'll have to admit I didn't even see it. So who was it, Gruskin? Please tell me.
It was some Georgia. First of all, I'm sure he's not actually that objectionable. It's Brad something or other. I don't know.
Okay, all right. That's not the direction I wanted to hear. You
No,
have
it
to
wasn't Marjorie Taylor Greene. Like, I would like to
That's
honor Manny Diaz in between
yeah,
accusing.
that's the part I would have just laughed if you had to say that. But okay.
Yeah, in between dodging Jewish space laser fire, Marjorie was honoring Manny Diaz, Chris. That's what was going on in Congress on Tuesday. Anyways.
The other, what has
Oh,
been
I thought
cool
you were
is
about
to
to do
see.
something on Congress. Sorry. Go ahead. Go
No,
ahead.
what has been nice is to see, a lot of times you see it in professional sports when guys are retiring. We've gotten to see, as Manny's been making the rounds to all the away matches this year, we've gotten to see
Yeah.
little things before the matches, gifts presented, and I mean just the legend that he is, and everybody in the conference loves him, and it's been great to see that.
Yeah. All right. With that said, again, Georgia, Alabama, big weekends. But last but certainly not least, I apologize before we get to the fake trade scenarios. Let's talk about just some of the other results we saw throughout the course of the weekend. And Chris, certainly looking at some of the big schools, UVA sweeping Florida State and Miami 4-1. Obviously, that Miami match played out over 2 days, but who's rounding into form for Dahlberg to get the clinch over Florida State? I think it's important for the sophomore to get a win like that because he had kind of been lacking to start the season. But they go 2-0, Wake 2-0, and neither of those matches were particularly competitive before the clinch. How about Virginia Tech? Again, such a feel-good story. They lose their assistant coach before the start of the season. He passes away tragically. They get a 4-3 win at Miami this weekend, and that is a team that is frisky in every match that they played. 2 4-3 thrillers last weekend. Now they get another 4-3 one to go their way. Big win. The other four matches I wanted to just bring up quickly. Ohio State 4-1 over Illinois. They're winning the Big Ten, folks. There you go. UCF 4-0 over Baylor. That was probably your biggest surprise of the weekend. South Carolina 4-3 over Ole Miss. They're the 4-3 darlings. Then Vandy 4-3 over Auburn. Again, tough weekend for the Tigers. I would give a shout out to Oklahoma State. They should have gone 2-0 against BYU, Texas Tech. They did, but both those teams are top 20 good and legitimately top 16 frisky. But Chris, more broadly, again, Vandy beating Auburn, UCF beating Baylor, Ohio State beating Illinois. I think those are the three other headlines we didn't talk about. Any particular thoughts on them or anything else we missed?
Yeah, no, that was a huge match for Vandy that actually put them right back. I mean, they were sitting down, I think maybe 56 to 60, somewhere in there before the weekend. That win, and that came down to basically, a full third on court 6. They have, I think, 5 courts there. So that match was last on, and it was the one that ended up deciding the match for Vanderbilt. That was a great one for them. It's actually got them back into NCAA tournament conversation in Scotty Brown's first year, and probably not something that we thought we were going to be talking about. But yeah, they're up to 44. That bubble line usually right around 42, and of course it's the SEC, so they're going to have a chance to pull off a win somewhere. They probably need one more top 35 or 40 type win in the SEC, and that'll probably get them in the NCAA tournament if they can do it.
You see this guy behind me in the studio? That's Scott Brown. That's an homage to him right there, sitting over my right shoulder, Chris, every episode we do. Yeah, it's when, not if. he gets Vandy clicking on all cylinders because every again, he was around too many successful Virginia programs, understands how to build it the right way. Again, yeah, it's quicker success than we expected. Vandy, a couple of really
I
good
noticed
wins.
you didn't call out, but I will. Liberty 4-3 over
Oh,
William
it
and
was
Mary.
on the list.
But wait, today 4-3 over a top 50 FAU.
Are the Flames back?
It only takes one guy to leave,
That's what I like to hear. The Flames are back. No, mine was Georgia Southern 4-3 over ODU. That was going to be my surprise result of the week. But again, a lot of fun tennis in Week 11. A lot of teams consolidating their positions. And in that spirit, with all of our result analysis in the books, Chris Halioris, let's get into our Cracked Rackets Week 11 rankings and how they compare to the current ITA Top 10 computer rankings. We agree exactly on the top four. We have Ohio State 1, Virginia 2, TCU 3, and Texas 4. That is the exact top four in the computer rankings. Not the order we had it in our preseason poll in December, but certainly similar directionally as those top four teams we knew would be the four best to start the year. After that, we disagree a little bit with the computers. We have Wake Forest number 5. The computers have Wake Forest 6. I think we're right. They're wrong. Just, again, National Indoor semifinalists. No really bad loss on the resume right now. The computer has Kentucky at number 5. We have them at number 8. Again, we have Arizona 6. The computer has them at 7. We have Columbia at 7. The computer has them at number 9. 3 SEC teams to end our top 10. We go Kentucky 8, Tennessee 9, Texas A&M 10. Texas A&M also the number 10 in the computer rankings. So again, directionally, Chris Halioris, a lot of things similar here. I want you to know that in my rankings specifically, I believe I have Kentucky over Columbia. I believe I have them behind Arizona. I'll pull that up here in a moment, but your thoughts directionally. Again, it's the same top 10 as the computer rankings, just slightly different order. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they're Oh, no, I think directionally, I don't have a problem. Honestly, we're deep enough in the season that I don't have issues with either, our poll or the the computer rankings. There's enough results in now to, but the only things that really sway the computer rankings at this point to make them too terribly different from what we do are the fact that you have the wins over a Virginia team with no Montez and no road dash, or things like that happen that the computer just can't take into account that we know. Other than that, I think it's fine. And yeah, you and I both had Kentucky over or Columbia in ours.
You and I had the exact same top 8 this week, Chris Hellers. We just flip-flopped A&M and Tennessee. I had them at 9, Tennessee at A&M at 9, Tennessee at 10. Didn't A&M beat Tennessee?
They did.
Yeah. Does the head-to-head rule not apply in the predictions never far from the listed UTR? Because it's like, well, the UTR said Tennessee would still win, so I got to take them.
I don't do any of that crazy NCAA flip-flop if they're back-to-back, because then I got to look and see if that results in another back-to-back, and I don't, and I also don't go too in deep, until we get to tournament time.
In other words, your
right
analysis is superficial. No, that makes a lot of sense.
It's gut feel right now,
No.
And I think they did, but if I said they played today and they play on a neutral site, I take Tennessee.
Yeah, two things. One, 11 through 16, who would be hosting right now the first 2 rounds? Harvard's 11, San Diego 12, Mississippi State 13, Duke 14, Florida State 15, NC State 16. All of them receiving votes in our Cracked Rackets poll this week. By the way, apologies to all of you in the audience. Kentucky was misspelled at first. It has been corrected now in the rankings. You should see that. Shout out to Westoff for the first quick fix. Again, that's your Cracked Rackets top 10, same top 10 teams, albeit in a different order as the computer poll. Ohio State 1, Virginia 2, TCU 3, Texas 4, Wake Forest 5, Arizona 6, Columbia 7, Kentucky 8, Tennessee 9, and Texas A&M 10. Chris Halioris, that's where things stand after Week 11. Let's now look ahead to week number 12. As always, I've divided things into tiers. I've got a bunch of matchups in Tier 1 for us to break down. Let's start with maybe the biggest remaining match on the Big Ten calendar. Saturday, Michigan State traveling to Champaign against Illinois. Right now, the Spartans are 18 in the rankings. The Illini are 19. This is a top 16 elimination match. Let's do it, Chris Halioris. Not really, I know, but entertain me here. What's your lean on this one? This is a huge match, it feels like, for the Spartans.
Yeah, I mean it's a well, I don't know if I'd say it's a must win. They have to beat them at least once,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's now or conference tournament. The question is if they lose now and then manage to face off against them in the conference tournament and beat them, does that get them in? I don't know. But they absolutely have to beat them if they want to get in. And I think likewise for Illinois, but the teams to your point, and if they split, it might actually benefit both of them to play twice and split. And it might get them, that would be the interesting point. Can they both get a top 16 spot if they play twice and split?
Yeah, no.
I think very possible. My lean though right now, I've got to lean Illinois. I think more tested
And
against
experienced. Yeah.
against the top teams, more experience right now, just youth on the Michigan State side that I haven't seen enough of to be that confident. And they, like you said, they're young. So I don't know what to make of that yet. I feel like I know what we've got in Illinois, so I'm going to lean that way, uh, and think that Illinois is going to come away with that one.
Critical that Michigan State have Thanos back, who's overplaying some pro events over the past couple of weeks. If they do, again, how he collared, all the guys in the bottom half of the lineup. Because in Champaign, Barris and Homan versus Heck and Ozalins, that's popcorn box office stuff. Like, it is going to be electric on those courts. Again, State probably has to take doubles. They probably have to take those top two to ask them. Again, but 3 through 6, you just lean on the fact that Okonkwo and Mraz have been in these situations before. Miyoshi, a little bit of a wild card, but obviously extraordinarily talented. I'm so excited for this match. Unfortunately, I'm not on the call for it. I'm going to be watching it here at home, or we might be on the call for a different match simultaneously. But it's one I will be glued to. I think it's going 4-3.
Interesting. So interesting. I put it in both ways. If they were to play twice and split, regardless of who wins this one and who wins the second one, in both scenarios, and obviously everybody else still has to play, so they could impact it. But given the current rankings right now, if they split two meetings, Michigan State ends up 16 in both, and Illinois outside the top 16.
Interesting. So again,
So it looks like, if Michigan State can pull one off, they've got a good shot at getting in. Illinois probably would have to get more help beyond
like
that.
I said, elimination match. Earlier, Chris, we mentioned the Cardinals. This is their make or break weekend. They're at Arizona State, at Arizona. The last big match they played was at San Diego, where they got absolutely rolled. That can't happen this weekend. These are two must-win matches for Stanford if they want to get back into the conversation this year. Do you think they're going to be able to do it?
I Pre that San Diego weekend, I would have said yes, but man, I mean, like you said it, they got rolled. I mean,
Yeah.
it was like doubles and 6 first sets, wasn't it?
It,
I
it
mean,
was a nightmare. Like they just lost
yeah,
everything.
yeah. So I don't know. I mean, and it's a big one for Arizona State. Arizona's just been playing too well. It's going to have to be a jump up and surprise us. I'm certainly not going to call it. So no, I don't think they come. I don't think they make the road trip to Arizona and come away with 2 wins. That's too much to ask. I think given the way they've been playing, it'll definitely have to be an aberration for them.
Everything about Stanford's on paper right now. In theory, 4 through 6, they should crush Arizona State. They should beat Lagayev and Christensen at 5 and 6 against Arizona. Be able to hang fine up top. It's all on paper. Got to see it play out this weekend. Again, one of your most fascinating road trips. How about TCU at Oklahoma State this weekend? Right now, the Sooners are 22 in the country. They're 14-2 overall, Chris. Oklahoma State not far behind. They're 26 in the country, 15-4 overall. If TCU's not healthy, they could drop one of these matches this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and more likely Oklahoma it'll be a little tougher for Oklahoma State, but man, yeah, if we have no Gorsny and underhand serving Fernley, I just that spells trouble against a team like Oklahoma. That they could definitely be on upset alert if they're not healthy.
Yeah, I agree. Again, we'll see it play out. Do you think they do sweep them both, or do you think do you think they drop one?
I still think they find a way to come out and win them both.
All right, we'll keep an eye on it. Last but not least, just because, again, so intriguing where all of these teams are right now in their season. Feels like Tennessee, not a full step back, but they've regressed a little bit in the transition outdoors. We talked about Mississippi State rising, Alabama rising earlier. Alabama's at Tennessee and Mississippi State this weekend, Chris. Do the Tides steal one of them? Like, what are your thoughts? These are two really good matches.
Yeah, these should be some really good matches. An Alabama Mississippi State match is always a good match, and they get to they're like 90 minutes or less from each other, barely over an hour away. They see each other a lot. That's the one that I would circle. I don't expect Alabama to go to Tennessee and pull it off. I expect an absolute dogfight in Starkville. And Mississippi State played a couple of 4-3 matches last weekend. I'm not going to be surprised in the least to see another one this weekend against
I
Alabama.
love to hear it. All right, rest of the way, Chris, I just want picks for you for our Tier 2 Week 2 matches. Louisville at Duke.
Duke,
UNC, Louisville at UNC.
North Carolina.
South Carolina at Georgia.
I think South Carolina
Oh,
finds a way, but boy, these are two teams going opposite directions right now.
yeah, and these are two teams matches you'll be on calls for, so I apologize for asking you about them. Michigan at Northwestern.
Man, Michigan's banged up. I still think they find a way to win. They should,
Yeah.
but they're not deep.
Michigan at Illinois.
Illinois.
Columbia at Cornell. Sneaky good Ivy League match.
Yeah, I think we get a couple good individual matches in here, but Columbia still comes out without too much trouble.
Princeton at Penn.
Yeah, I mean,
Must win for Penn.
it is, but I don't see it happening. I think Princeton gets it.
Pepperdine at San Diego, a match that was more fun before the start of the season. San Diego has just stepped up. They're another level.
Yeah. I mean, this is one though that Pepperdine's got to be circling like, guys, this is our chance to make a statement here. If we're going to make one this year, this is it. But yeah, San Diego has just been unbelievable. Pepperdine's floating around that NCAA bubble line with not a lot of opportunity to get wins that push them up anymore. So huge match for them. I still think San Diego's they're just too good.
Absolutely. Well, last but not least, Chris, Florida at Georgia. Oh, wait, just thoughts on it. Who needs it more? Who needs it more?
I don't know. It's hard to say who needs it more. They're both. I'd have to look at the rankings. Georgia, you said, was up to 34. Florida was around 33 going into the week last week. I'm not sure where they ended.
Right now, Florida's 32, Georgia's 34.
Yeah. So, and if I look, Florida needs wins more because they've still got a couple spots where they don't even have wins over a top 125 team that we're using in the rankings. So they could really use the wins, which means, for them, heck, they just even need SEC conference tournament over the worst team they could possibly get or something like that. They just need anything at this point. So I think they could use it more. But yeah, it's an interesting one. A couple of teams that are just sort of right in the middle, 6, 7, 8 range in that SEC, and someone needs to step up.
Well, we'll see it all play out over the course of the weekend. Again, we have broadcast Thursday, Friday, Sunday on ESPN Plus. Thursday for the Big 12, Friday, Sunday for the ACC and SEC. Of course, Big 10 broadcast on our Crack Rackets YouTube channel on Sunday. Chris, in honor of it being our first show live on YouTube, this is not where we are going to end today's podcast, even though this is where we typically end our show. Again, now you know everything from Week 11. You know what to watch for in week number 12. But as John Parsons likes to say, one of our goals here in 2024 is, as he likes to say, bring back the 2018 version of the show. Have a little fun, get a little bit spicy with some of our takes here moving forward, and certainly one thing we like to do is talk about who's the guy at any given moment. We like to talk about the big questions on tennis fans' minds. The other things we like to do is get a little abstract, right? And something we would love to do, certainly, and wish was real, that unfortunately you're not able to do, is offer trades in the college tennis universe. That, of course, is where we want to end today's show. And if we're going to have some fun, if we're going to talk trades, it feels only right, Chris Halioris, that we bring in someone else to join us. Of course, he joins us live from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, on campus for his final semester of college. Of course, a returning champion now on our Cracked Rackets podcast with eyebrows so fine, you know he's a Gruskin. It's my younger brother, Nicholas, joining us on the show. Nicholas, first of all, hey, great shot. Welcome back to the podcast. I see you're repping the Baylor Bears. I love it. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. I mean, we're off to a tough start here. Chris chose against the Quakers here early in a tier 2 matchup, must win in Philadelphia. So that was a tough start to the pod. I was listening, but no, we're doing well. Happy to be back, talk a little tennis.
Well, it's
gotta rep the Baylor.
it's the only time you listen is when you are on the show. I look at this camera now. That makes sense because we switched to the Zoom view. Okay, thank you, Westhoff. Good to know. So, by the way, I haven't seen you, Nicholas, since I saw you in New York. So,
Indoors?
yeah, the haircut looks nice, Nick.
Indoors. Thank you. I figured Mom might be watching, so I had to look nice, get the haircut.
Did you get that today?
2 days ago.
Okay, that's you know what, but you didn't know till yesterday that you were coming on the show, so it wasn't just.
And if I knew Mom was watching, I'd have maybe no. I'm not
by the way, well, you know what? We'll save that discussion for a different time. Anyways, it's good to see you, Nick Gruskin. This is an exercise that is right up the Gruskin alley. Fake trades, college tennis universe. So let's just get into it. Chris, did you bring any trades to the equation, or do you just want to comment on A, who you think comes up with the better trades, and B, if you like the trade or
not? Yeah, I had some, but I think they're guys that you have listed. So go ahead.
All right,
and I'll throw
Nick
mine.
Gruskin. First trade belongs to you. Let's start here, though. Who were the assets you were trying to get more than anything? Like, if you're another team looking to elevate yourself this year, looking to add a piece, you're a buyer in this fake trade market. Give me your top 5 guys you would want to go get.
Look, I mean, Alex, we've been doing this not just in tennis, in basketball, football. I mean, we've been doing this activity for years. So I looked at it. I had 5 guys for you. Number 1, I think it's an obvious one. I mean, I'm in 1.5 classes right now. I'm part-time, graduating. I mean, yesterday was all college tennis for me. So I've been excited. But I had 5 guys. Number 1, and I think it was an obvious one, going down, got to get ACC from Florida State. I mean, that guy just been a baller all year. I think he just beat Rodesh. So definitely going to get him. Number 2, got to get Murphy out of there. I don't know what he's doing out west. It's time for him to move on, and then look Domingo, Tarvit, and Andres Martin. So those were my 5 guys. But I don't know. There were some interesting things. Look, I was looking at it. And I'm interested, Chris, what you think. Alex, I think I know what you think on this one. But like, I was looking at like Arizona and Stanford and teams like that, where you're maybe Wake as well, where you're in the hunt, but you don't know if you're getting it done this year. Are those the teams that would want to be aggressive, or do they rebuild for next year, go get a couple of young assets? So those were kind of the teams I was looking at, but I don't know. Want to know what you think too.
Yeah, well, I think, if we obviously it's all hypothetical because we can't do it, right? But in a real world, if we were allowed to do that, I think your takes on guys like ACC and Murphy are good. Like ACC, it's his final year, so it's.
Can I throw another guy in that category? And I hear an echo right now. I hope you guys don't. If you do hear an echo, or you don't? You do hear an echo. Okay, Westhoff, we'll have to come fix that. I'm going to shut up then and let you two talk for this moment. Andreas Martin, another guy I would put in that category.
Now your echo went away.
Okay. That's good.
Oh, and now it's back. Yeah, I know, and I think Andreas Martin's not bad either. But yeah, I would look at teams that had older, guys that are probably in their final year, maybe stretch it to they have one more year left. And you're probably not in the spot where you're really challenging. You're not one of the teams able to go after a natty, let's say. So you would take the opportunity to build if you could get a 2-for-1 and give up your now for two guys that are going to make it for you next year.
Yeah, that is right into where, and the echo should be gone now. That is right into where we want to start this trade, because that's absolutely the conversation. How do you define who's a buyer, who's a seller? And yeah, I think Nick and I agree. Teams like Wake Forest, a team like Kentucky, as I alluded to earlier on the show, they feel like if they could get a big piece of depth, they have absolutely a buyer. You could elevate a level. I think Oklahoma is a sneaky team I'll have on my list. Like, that's another team they feel like they are one big piece away from maybe jumping up a level, whatever it may be. The point is, more broadly, like, again, it is going to be fascinating to see how these teams are. Again, it's a fascinating exercise. It's a fascinating hypothetical. You guys can still hear me. I believe the video froze on our end on Zoom, but for what it's worth, the video is still working, I believe, on YouTube. So we can talk as normal. Anyways, let's get into our fake trades. We'll end with who the untouchable assets are. Nick Gruskin, the floor is yours to start. Who you got?
So it's interesting the teams you guys named because those are the obvious ones. But I think the top four, when you look at like a Texas, even a Virginia coming out of indoors, like those teams might not be the teams we thought that they were preseason. And so I think that obviously the teams in the 5-6 range clear buyers, but I think the teams in 1 through 4 are too. I mean, you look at OSU, what they've been able to do. I don't think if you're Virginia right now, you can say that this roster, obviously you feel good up top, but I think that there's still a piece or two away. So I have one. He's my favorite player, as Alex knows. The Eagle, Dylan Dietrich. You know he was going to be in here for me. Um, Looking at South Carolina, obviously, when you factor in trades and his eligibility, I think he might be an untouchable. But I want to start with this one: Dietrich for Toby Samuel and Hool. Do you think they do that one? Because I mean, you think about filling out their lineup. Obviously, you don't want to give away Dietrich, but I mean, with that lineup, you get that extra piece, really fill out the middle of the lineup. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, Toby Samuel is a fascinating guy who you wouldn't necessarily consider on the Cassone ACC list, because South Carolina had higher aspirations than that, particularly after beating Virginia in Charlottesville, match number 1. But Thompson out for the season. They've got some really talented freshmen in Sar Darabagi. You add Dietrich to the mix there. Like, you're selling on this year, and you're ending what's been a really fun 4-year Toby Samuel centric run. I defer to you, Chris Halioris. I have Toby Samuel on my board as well. Do you think Virginia does it, and is that package enough for one of the top assets in college tennis in the Eagle, Dylan Dietrich?
Oh, there's 0 chance Virginia does it and 100% chance South Carolina does it.
You think, why does Virginia say no? You think that doesn't make them significantly better right now? Samuel, the certainty of him in singles and dubs?
I think so
because the
part of it
argument
is,
would be for on Nick, you can give the argument. Why would Virginia do it? And then,
Well,
Chris, you
I
can.
mean, I think I talked to a little bit in terms of needing that extra piece for this year. I mean, they're a little bit old up top. Rodesh will be gone. I mean, obviously, Dietrich's a guy. I don't know if he's going to be there for all 4, so that's another thing to factor in. I think if he's only there for 1, maybe 2 more years, that's another reason why you think you could get rid of him. But
you also have the three-peat is sitting there. It's
right.
like you don't get to do that often in college tennis. And like, again, these Virginia guys are acutely aware of the fact that their preceding generation, Kwiatkowski, Aragoni, those guys got 3 and they only have 2. And I see the incentive. Chris Halioris, now I'll shut up and let you talk.
Well, I think Nick makes a good argument if you think Dietrich's a 1 or 2 and gone. I just don't think, especially when you take into account, yes, Virginia does. I mean, Pedrosa's going to recruit great. He's already got a great class coming in, but they've already lost Fonseca for next year, right? If that was coming still, that might help you a little more maybe in making that decision, but you don't want to give up the prize freshman to try to make the run this year. If Dietrich was a junior, I might lean a little more towards something like that, but giving up what could potentially be, 3 more years out of this guy, I don't see doing that.
So the thing is, they don't have a junior who fits this sort of, that's not a piece. That's why Texas is so fascinating if they could trade, because they kind of had anything of a entree list of menu items you could choose for on the trade market. But let's stick Toby Samuel because I have one involving him as well. It's Oklahoma going to get him. And here's the trade package, Chris, straight up. An Oklahoma team that's, again, 14-2. They've got some veterans, Martinez, Mandlick, Haston, all these guys in their final year. They also have an undefeated freshman, a hell of an asset, a top 10 newcomer by the name of Kolo Monsi. Straight up, South Carolina, you get Monsi, Oklahoma gets back Toby Samuel and says, we're making a push this season. Now our team is Samuel, Martinez, Alvarez, Hassan, Mandlick, and I'm forgetting who the sixth starter is. Hahn, right? Nathan Hahn. That's a team, Chris Halioris. Who says yes? Who says no?
Man, I don't know.
That's a good one, right?
I mean, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure where I fall.
Alex won, Nick 0. Yeah.
I mean, if you think that Samuel gets them over the hump, which that's a whole nother argument. I'm not sure that I do. I mean, I think with the year that Colo's had, I don't know if I would do that if I'm Oklahoma. I don't think they're really one piece away. I think they should still sort of be thinking more long term, but it is an interesting one.
Chris, final word on this trade goes to you.
Yeah, I think I think in both places, I'd probably just stand pat. I don't know that I think it does enough for me to do it.
All right. That's a limited mindset, Chris Halioris. Nick Gruskin, next trade to you.
All right, I got another one. So we talked a little bit about Murphy, and we talked a little bit about Wake.
You just want to rescue, as you say. Arizona State is like 17 in the country. You just
they
want
got
him
a
on
guy
a
at 2. They got a freshman at 2, but he's not going anywhere. I mean, I think he's an untouchable. We'll talk about that. But so I thought about Wake. They've got some nice young pieces. So I got Murphy for the freshman at 5, Powell, bringing Matt Thompson, and then they got a blue chip in the next class, Andrew Delgado, and I'm also throwing in NIL cash considerations, a little sweetener for Arizona State just in case they need it. So that's going to be my deal. Throw Murphy in, they get a little cash. The athletic department feels a little bit better, and Wake gets to really gear up for this year.
So it's Murphy for who?
Powell, Thompson, and a blue chip, and then cash. Cash being not Robert Cash, of course. NIL money.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Because now your top 3 is Murphy. Now your top 3 is Murphy, Maroney, or Murphy. Suresh is still playing 2, but now Maroney's your 3. And again, the thing is, they've been like the difference between Wake Forest and everyone else right now is Powell and Coons. So you give that up to get better up top, but they've got 19 different options at the top of their lineup. Like maybe you have to throw in one of the 4, 5, 6 guys for Arizona State as well, given you're giving up Thompson and he's a really good doubles piece. But now they have a blue chipper. Like, it's a really interesting trade. I'll tell you what, Tony definitely takes the call. That one's Matt Hill. Like, it's on you if you want to say yes or not.
Well, yeah, Matt put so much time into Murphy. There's no
I know, he's the prize.
Yeah. There's no chance he's letting him go after everything.
But now you have Bohr and Powell to build around for the next couple years, and you can keep landing them.
Yeah, I mean, no, it would be a great land, and you've gotta figure this is it for Murphy. So it's definitely an interesting. I think it just needs to be a little bit sweeter. I think it would make sense for Arizona State, but I think it would need to be a little bit of a sweeter deal. I think they really need. I think what they need, because they're still just kind of struggling to get those top 4 or 5 guys to get in. They need 2 guys that they think could be their Powell. I'll go with, but they need another young guy that they're confident could be a top 4 guy for them in another year or 2, and then I think it makes sense.
Wake doesn't really have that junior. Like, you're not giving up Suresh, and so yeah, that's fair. Nick, you have a good Texas trade, right?
Well,
all right, so hold that.
So yes, I do. I mean,
so we'll get to that then.
Okay.
My number 2 trade isn't going to be that. I'm going with my favorite trade package I teased earlier, Chris. Jack Loudett, Jaden Weeks. Really good, obviously, both of them, the 3 and 5 for Kentucky. Those are real pieces. But Kentucky's got Stevenson. They've got Rankin on the bench. They've got Mercer on the bench as well. Here's the trade. You give up two really good long-term pieces. You give up Loudit and Weeks if you're Kentucky. You go get ACC from Florida State. And you say, we're winning right now. And you still have Stevenson and Rankin to build around. But now your team is ACC, Body, Lapidat, Kosnay, Stevenson, Rankin, or Mercer. You like that one, Nick?
Well, so I'm gonna
You have a
pretend,
counter Kentucky
I have
package?
not a
Oh,
Kentucky.
give me the counter Kentucky
I have
package.
another package for ACC. So I'll let Chris say which one he likes more. It's the Texas one, the one you were talking about.
Okay.
I mean, the obvious piece for them is what do you do with Legoo? Like, was he gonna be there? You throw in him, Braswell, and Lucas Brown. Not Micah, Jonah, and Lucas Brown for ACC. A little bit less right now, a little bit more for the future. Again, don't know how long Legoo's going to be there, so that's another sort
And
of
now
package.
your Texas team, by the way, would be ACC, Spiz, Micah, GA, PY, Cleve. If that team can't win the title, go home.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting. Those are really good trade packages. Chris, which one would you rather have? Loudit and Weeks or Legoo, Jonah Braz, and Lucas Brown for ACC? Nick, great trade suggestion.
Well, there's zero chance Kentucky makes that deal. No way. I mean,
really?
They don't want ACC, and they're not getting rid of their freshmen. Or freshman and sophomore. Forget it. I mean, that's you destroy the culture. You
don't think that lineup gets better though?
No, you destroy the culture. You take. I mean, it's not the team anymore. ACC'd rather play pickleball. I mean. Yeah, he and Benoit Paire could play pickleball all night and show up for a match at noon the next day.
And by the way, they're both going to win.
Yeah. But no, Kentucky's not giving up the future like that for the now, because it's not good. The problem with Kentucky is it doesn't get them over the hump. They're too weak after doing that and having to play, Rankin and Mercer, down there when you do that. So I don't think they do it. By far, if I was making one of those deals, I'd take the Texas deal.
It's public in the chat. So thank you for the comment. Cedric Kaufman agrees with you, Chris Halioris. He says we're keeping him. So
thank you, Cedric. There's no chance Cedric's getting rid of
Nick,
those guys.
You're back on the board. That's 2 for Nick. What do you think of the Texas package, though, Chris?
Yeah, so you got Legoo, Jonah, and Lucas Brown. I think that's too much, to be honest.
But it's a win now move. Like, it's like, look, our chips are in 2024. This is the year for Texas. I like the reasoning behind it. I think if I'm Texas, I don't know how that team loses. Like, you've got 3 number ones, maybe 5 number ones at your 1 through 5 spot. Like, and then Cleve's back at 6. Like, come on.
Yeah, and if you feel, and now you get down to...
And you still have Waldeep for your 7.
How good do they feel about their ability to recruit? Because, I mean, you're giving up a guy in Legoo in the future who it wasn't eligible this year, so you're not even losing him out of the lineup. Brown is basically not playing, and Jonah is sometimes playing 6. So it's definitely a trade for now. And if I'm Texas, I think it would make sense to say, yeah, we're winning the title this year. Let's do that, because that helps them for sure. And obviously, there's no downside for Florida State. They're not winning a title either way, and they'll take the guys, and that'll help them build. So that's a great deal.
All right, 2-1 Nicholas, as we have. I have 2 left. You mentioned Virginia earlier. I have an Arizona-Virginia trade that I don't love, but I'm intrigued by. Dahlberg, Kiefer, Graziani, all given up by Virginia. So that's 3 pieces going Arizona's way. They give Virginia Herman Hoyerall and Casper Christensen. So now if you're Virginia, you still the big 4, Rodesh, Montez, von der Schulenberg, the Eagle. Yeah, Kiefer's been a key piece, but now Hoyerall's your 5. And then I don't care if it's Hopper, Christensen, whatever's your 6. You feel so good about that top 5. Meanwhile, if you're Arizona, yes, you've given up Herman Hoyerall, but you keep your top 3, and now you have options. You have Kiefer, Dahlberg, Legayev, and Graziani. Just more depth than, although Christensen and Legayev have been pretty good. Chris Halioris, do you say yes if you're either team?
Give me the
Dahlberg,
3 again.
Kiefer, Graziani for Hoyerall and Christensen? He's intrigued. I'm on the board. We're back.
I mean, I like it if I'm Virginia. I don't know that Arizona does that deal.
Because Hoyerall,
I mean, I don't know.
like
I don't think they do.
Nick, you're the Arizona whisperer. You
Yeah,
don't like that pack?
No, I was thinking the same as Chris. I mean, I don't know if that moves the needle for Arizona. I
Do
mean,
you
I
have
think
an Arizona trade?
I do. You know, I have an Arizona trade.
Okay,
of
so
course.
give it to Chris. He
A
can
little
tell us
bit
what's better.
different. I mean,
Right.
going with Duke. So you give up Jay Friend for straight up Garrett Johns and Andrew Zhang. Get a little bit younger for Duke. Rebuild around Pedro and Friend, and then for Arizona, having the year that you're having, you go get two guys to really fill out the lineup. Garrett has been pretty good. Zhang's been really, really solid at 3. Think it makes sense for both teams.
That's a really good trade. I really like that one.
Yeah, I don't know how. I'm not sure though if you're.
But think if you're Arizona, your lineup is now Smith, Colton Smith, Johns, Strom, Zhang, probably Hoyerall 5, and then Lagayev or Christensen at 6. If you're Duke, you're selling this season. And again, this year has meant so much to Duke to get back to the national indoors, to have this senior class of Zhang and Heller and again and Johns and what they've meant to the program. But I think Duke knows like their highest aspiration this year is quarterfinal. And if you're Ramsey moving forward, and I have 2 pieces in Rodinas and Friend that are like top 2 moving forward, and now I just have to fill out the rest. Yeah, you're selling this season. That's a really interesting trade because both teams get like Arizona gets better in the short term for sure. Duke's long. It might be a point, Nick, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, it's there's good and bad on both sides, right? I think it does make sense for Arizona to if the push was for this year. The problem is, I don't think it's with what's in front of them. They're already a top 8. Does it make them a title contender? I still don't think so.
I
I
don't
think it's
top
enough
5
to say, yeah, we're going to win the Natty with that, and it's worth giving up Friend for. Duke for sure. Yeah, they're not going anywhere. It makes all kinds of sense for them to get somebody that can play up high and has years left. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, I got one more for you, and then Nick, the floor is yours. I have a Tennessee trade, and I think you're going to really like it. So I was looking, what is a trade package out there that every team wants to add? You want experience, ideally experience in singles and doubles. Chris, there's a made-ready trade package sitting right now in Atlanta, Georgia, in the all-senior duo of Andreas Martin and Marcus McDaniel. And so I really wanted to find them a home. I think I did in Tennessee. Here's the trade. Vols get Martin McDaniel. Georgia Tech gets Apple Tower, Ijonka, and you'll know it's a lot. So yeah, if you're Georgia Tech, the year is old, but now you've got 2 promising freshmen to build around. If you're Tennessee, look, this is kind of the end 5 years, 6-year run, all the way back to Wiedemann and 20. He played one before Wiedemann, and I see his face. I can see it before Walton. Oh my God, he played one before Walton. I can see
Timo Stoddard.
Timo Stoddard, thank you. Like this is kind of from Stoddard to Monday has been a 7-year run for this Tennessee program, and you still have Monday for one more year. You still have Mitsui. You still have Diaz, the core of a group that, again, makes quarterfinals or further typically at the NCAAs. Obviously, last year an exception. Yeah, you're selling the future a little bit, but now your group is Monday, McDaniel, Monday, Martin, Mitsui, McDaniel, Diaz, Chris Lee. That team can win a national championship, Chris Halioris. That team is right there in the mix. Who says yes? Who says no? Are you intrigued?
I think Georgia Tech says yes. I don't think Tennessee says yes. I agree it makes them better this year for sure. But and I honestly, Lalami's a grad, and they're not even playing him right now, so no problem. Apple Tower, they could replace the Pajonka piece. I think to give up that freshman that's got all kinds of upside. there. That's sort of the linchpin, and it really depends on how good they feel about trying to be able to replace it and how good they feel about the possibility of making it work for this year, going after a national title. But that's a crazy good singles lineup at that point. I mean, I'd have to know how strongly they felt about the future of Pajanka. I think the others they'd let it go for. So I think it's very possible.
All right, I will take that as a victory. Nick, you get final. Give me your best 2 trades to end it.
I don't know if I had 2, but I
All right,
have
you got
one
one more for me? All right, give me
yeah,
your final
I
trade,
got
and then
one
we got
more
because
for
we
you.
got more topics to hit, Chris.
I mean,
Oh,
this one I think is pretty simple, and I think both teams say no, but I want to hear what you guys think. Elliot Spizzirri straight up for Jake Fernley. What team hangs up the phone?
both.
I think I'm not going to get in trouble by answering that question because I have an answer. I just don't want to get in trouble.
I have
That's
an
a good
answer too.
question. Yeah, I think we all do. You can.
I
say
mean,
your
yeah,
answer.
there's no like there's no way they both obviously
No,
if you're
both.
taking it, you
You
think the
have to
other
say
guy's
no.
better, and there's no way they both think the other guy's better.
You have to say no if you're both of the coaches. You have to. It's just a must. You say no. But I would like to see 4 shots later what each
Yeah,
coach
you
says.
put a little truth serum in them,
Yeah,
and we'll see what they really think. I don't know. I'm
exactly.
not sure both teams say no.
Just to finish this thought, Chris Halioris, Nick and I both came up with lists. Who is the most untradeable player right now in college tennis? The one player who there's just no package for you to go get 2024.
I mean, there's always a price, right? I mean,
Rodesh is my number 1. I then have Cooper Williams at 2. I have Dietrich at 3. I have Bernard and Anthrop tied for 4 because just like Ty's just gonna say no. And then I have Zhang at 5 just because of what he means to Columbia. Nick, what's your list?
So I didn't rank. I'm surprised you didn't put Pennington Jones on there. Kevin
Oh,
Jack was on my
he's
list. He
6.
was high on my list.
That's a good one.
I mean, I had him, like you, Bernie, Anthrop. I put Bohr, Adnick in there, Cooper,
Four. I like that. That's
Dietrich,
good inclusion.
Zhang, and then got to stick with my Michigan guys. I think Ozon's up there. I think he's really really good too.
That's
so.
a good point.
but
Ozon.
I'm glad you brought up Ozon because Nick, that was I don't well, he's untradeable because he would never leave. Okay.
Yeah, well, here's the
But-
thing. And this I'll say because I don't mind getting flack from him after this podcast. Harry's a dog. Like, if Harry saw the right Ozon package, he'd say, look, I love you. But you're not staying that much longer anyways. And I have the chance to get the Eagle. Like, I just have to do it.
Well, so that's where I was gonna say
He would never do that, by the way. That's a joke. It's because it's Harry.
but I have 2 options for a trade that I like in that realm, Gruskin, and that is Murphy or Ozon. Ohio State gets to pick any 2.
I mean, the problem is I spent an hour looking for an Ohio State trade. So did Nick. We were on the phone together. Like, this was a conversation we had, 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. last night. The problem is you're not giving up one of Anthrop or Bernie, even for ACC. Like, you're just not doing it straight up, Chris. Hashtag the 6 Bernie rule. You're just not giving him up. And so the problem is, like, sure, you'd give up
So
Bernie
one of them
for
probably
Rodesh.
got to be Nakashima.
You'd give up you'd give up Bernie for Rodesh, but like that's never happening. And like again, you're only giving up Bernie on its own for something better. And like the something better, the other team's like, no, we're not doing that.
Okay, so
Although Bernie for Rodesh straight up, I might say yes if I'm Virginia, just for the extra years and like we got options. So I like Bernie.
So who says no to Nakashima and Cash for Cassone or Nakashima and Cash
Arizona
for
State.
Barry?
Arizona State immediately says no, we're not doing that. I think
why would Arizona State say no?
Because that's not enough.
They desperately need depth. They have 3
because if they get that call, then they're calling Oklahoma and saying, "Hey, they offer us Cash and Nakashima. Give us Colo, and we'll give you Murphy." Or they're calling Wake Forest and they're saying, "Hey, is the POW package still on the table? Because you can just get better than that. It's freaking Murphy Cassone."
Yeah, I mean, I think
I
it's
mean that
interesting.
in a compliment, by the way,
I
Chris.
spent about
I don't know, man. Like a team like Michigan State needs depth. They need depth badly. They'll take a 2-for-1.
Nick, final word on this belongs to you.
I don't. I just don't think it makes sense because if you give up Ozon, you're not getting. You don't. I don't
Yeah,
think
the
you have
problem is,
enough
yeah, Ozon's
anyway.
a little too young. It'd be more like Holman, but then nobody wants it.
That's
So
the problem.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like that's where they get into the untradeable tier.
The
That's
the
where
the,
those
la-
guys are so interesting.
the last one I wanted to bring up, I spent like 40 minutes thinking about an OSU Texas trade because I think they're interesting because OSU has about 6 guys who you feel good at 3 singles, like they won't lose.
They should trade Preston Stearns for Lucas Brown straight up. 2 guys who have the same role. But carry on.
They both cheer just like I do. But I don't know. I was thinking like, Texas in the middle of their lineup. I think they've been a little disappointed. At least I've been a little bit disappointed with what they've gotten so far. And so I was thinking of, you know, you like Cannon at 1, but do you really like Cannon at 1? So, I think there's a Micah plus someone, and I wasn't sure who, for like a Bernie or Anthrop type of package. I couldn't come to grips with that. The thing I came up with was just for the year, assuming no eligibility, you just get them now and then things go back. Do they do Micah and PY for Bernie and Anthrop just for this year? That was something I was thinking about. Both teams kind of.
I think both teams say no to that because like I wouldn't like if I could get Micah, I want to give up 4, 5, or 6. The problem is the difference between Ohio State and singles 5 and 6. All due respect to Robert Cash. By the way, Harper and Cash on the same team, that team's winning doubles. Period. Yeah. The problem is who do you pair with Cash in that package? Because it's Braswell for Cash and whatever else you think you can, because you're not taking Boulay, you're not taking Kingsley, you're not taking Tracy. They're all seniors. You're not taking Luchanig. And I just don't think you can give up. Like if you give up Bernie or Anthrop, you're losing that competitive advantage, like the opportunity cost, Nick. It's tough. I don't know. That's like the Ohio State package is really hard to find.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's
neither one of you guys tried to put one for Bassa already in there.
He has
there
some
was
question
a lot
marks.
of
There's a lot of
Stanford
talk.
Yeah,
believe me, I
Nick's
was all
coming
over
back
that.
in 2 weeks to do just Stanford centric because, like, yeah,
But,
there's so many Stanford.
Are they a buyer or a seller?
Yeah, great question, Chris.
Well, I think that this year's gone, so I think they're trying to sell for now and buy for the future.
But their whole roster is the future. Like, what
well,
are they
exactly?
buying?
But that's what I'm saying. But there's a little. I don't know how much Basso already's. It's not his first year. He's probably also not a 4-year guy. So I think I think there's an opportunity to deal him to get even more for the future that you're building and get even and set themselves up.
Which is why I get back, and I love you. I love Coach Kaufman, so I don't mind bringing him up again. The Loudit Weeks package is the best package on the market. It just is. Like, for that, you could go get ACC and Dose Carpenship.
That's in your untouchable. Like,
what if it's ACC and Dose Carpenship?
Well, yeah, they have to go. I mean, those guys. How about this?
What if it's ACC and LP? ACC and LP.
ACC and Josh they won't split up anyway. So you have to put them again.
That's what I'm saying. And now it's like you keep the depth. Anyways, that trade has been removed. The GM declined. But these are all really good trades, and again, speaks to where these guys are right now and our thoughts on them. Speaking of which, we have the guy conversation. Nick Gruskin, you asked me last night, how big is my tier 1, the guy conversation tier? It's 8 guys deep. How big's your tier 1? Talk me through who you got.
Interesting. So I've got 5 guys on there.
Okay, you're a little bit more specific in.
How many? First of all, how many tiers do you have?
I have 2 tiers, but I started tier 2 could be divided if I wanted. Yeah, you have 4. I lumped it into. So I really have 4 tiers as well. I have within tier 1, 2 tiers. I have 5 guys who are the guy conversation, and then 3 guys who value to their team roster and value to team culture are tier 1, the guy candidates, even if they're not the guy. Then tier 2, I have 2 tiers, other really good the guy guys, and players who are in the waiting and maybe a year away from the guy conversation. So I could make my list 4 tiers real quick, Nick Gruskin. Let the record show they're ranked tiers, but let's start with your top 5. Give me your tier 1.
Okay, so my tier 1, which I also called the guy.
In order, right?
it's in order, but all these guys are sort of similar. It's really not. It's really they're purely clumped. So I put Rodesh in there, put Fernley in there, I put Spiz in there, I put Jomo in there, and I put Micah in there. But he was an interesting one for me.
Okay, so it's a criminal exclusion right off the bat.
Yeah,
and I know once
no
I
ACC.
say
You're already out of the conversation.
Okay. Well, I had him tier 2, but okay, we'll put him in tier 1.
Rodesh last weekend.
He's undefeated on the year, and he beat Rodesh, and he's not in the. Come on.
You just
yeah, but
lost
where's his
Chris's
team? I had
Chris.
okay,
To Nick's point, Chris, you said he'd rather be playing pickleball about 10 minutes ago. And
I
so
know.
Can you be the guy if you'd rather be playing pickleball? That's what some scholars would ask.
I mean, the results are the results.
I know. He's so good. He beat Rodesh last week. So my tier, if I were to divide tier 1 into 2, my top 5 guys, ACC, in no order, ACC, Rodesh, Fernley, Spiz, Jomo. I agree. That's my tier 1A of tier 1. I had Micah as my tier 2, or start of tier 2, or bottom half of tier 1 guy. I have 3 in that category.
So I had 3 question marks next to his name because he was the hardest name for me in terms of
14-0 this year. He's so good. He's so good. And someone on this show is not a big Braswell believer, or wasn't always a big Braswell believer. I think that person has been proven wrong this year.
Well, I mean, look, he played Andre Styler. I mean, he played him, he played Maloney. I mean, I've seen him twice and it didn't go great for him. So when I see him in person and he's off the court in 30 minutes, it's hard to put him in tier 1. But he's been rocks this year. He's amazing. I mean, him versus Spiz is a whole sort of another question, but I think he's a tier 1 guy.
That's why he's 1B for me, because he doesn't play 1 in his lineup. But I think my 1B guys are him, Iñaki, because Iñaki represents, if we had a Heisman Trophy for the guy, it would be Iñaki screaming after he wins a point, because it just, again, Nick was speaking Spanish for 2 weeks after going to the indoors because he was all in on Iñaki, Chris. I have Iñaki, Micah, and then there just has to be a Buckeye on this list. And so I had JJ as my 8th man in tier 1, or tier 1B, however you want to talk it. That's my 8 list. Chris Halioris, what say you of those 8 guys?
I mean, I don't have a problem with them, but honestly, I'm just stunned at that you both left off each one of you left off either Micah or ACC, who are literally the only 2 guys on my list. If I'm drafting a team right now and you're going, who you taking? Those are my first 2 picks.
Really? I'm taking Rodesh.
Tell me which one's lost a match this year?
I'm taking Rodesh.
Okay, but when has Florida State ever played a match where they need him to go get they're not in the matches? I've seen Rodesh when
they were in that Virginia match. That match was close for a while, and he beat Rodesh.
You don't see Rodesh. I agree. And also Fernley, I'm probably taking too.
No, I agree with you though, Nick. Rodesh has more his matches just matter more, and he always comes through when the match matters.
And I'm taking Fernley too, because that guy's amazing. Yeah, he's legit.
Micah's really Micah.
I'm honestly, they're both the Texas guys to me. If it comes down TCU Texas, I mean, this is to our earlier thing, but I know which team wants their 1 singles out there. And it's not in Austin. The horns are down. I'm putting Jake on court. That's who I want. So same with JPJ. I saw him. I mean, I don't know. I'm in on the TCU guys. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, that's fair. I think ACC has to be there. Jomo, Nick, your in-person Jomo take.
I mean, it's very rare. These guys are in college just like me, but I saw Jomo in person. I was like, I might ask for an autograph. Where's the pen? I mean, he was legit. That guy was awesome.
His serve in person, the quick release, you're like, oh my goodness.
He's no nonsense. I mean, he's a beast. So wait, so that was your
2 and 3. Yeah, give me your 2 and 3.
So my tier 2, I called 2 singles on a championship team, which is why I had Micah in. That's why I had Micah in there originally. But it was Iñaki, especially during May. It was I don't know what you do with Dostanic because he's hurt. I put him in here. I didn't know about that one. I put JPJ in there, and then I put Murphy. And then my tier 3, which I called literally Ohio State, was Ohio State's 1 through 5 singles.
And then tier 4 is 6 Bernies.
Yeah. Yes.
Wait, that's really good. Tier 3, you just have 5 Ohio. That's really funny.
So that was my tier
What's your
3.
What's your tier 4?
My tier, right, this is the fun one. My tier 4 is you hope your team beats them before your match finishes, which is Cooper Williams, Tarvit, Michael Zhang, Basaveretti, Colton Smith, Ozan, and Gavin. Got to put a Michigan guy in there. So those were look, they're good. Like, you're going to be in a battle at 1. You hope your team 4-1s them quickly so you can, like, not start the 3rd set, and then you move on with your day. So that was my tier 4.
I'm going to say tier 9B is I'm going to be down a set, but I'm going to win the second, and down 3-1 in the third when we finish is also called the Jacob Bickerstaff tier.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I put my sleeves up just in case.
We'll fill it up accordingly. Love you, Bick. Yeah, all guys, my big tier 2 guys in waiting, whatever it may be: JPJ, Colton, Murphy, Cooper, Michael Zhang, Bernie, Tarvit, Toby, Ozan, Bohr, Domingo, the underrated player in this lip, Anthrop, Luca Pau, and then DK Suresh, who I know you're a big guy on, Nick, as we look forward towards the rest of this career. That said, Nick, Chris has a second day job, so let's get to our final category here as we wrap today's show. A real day job. I said second day job, implying this was his first. I apologize there, Chris.
My second day job is a night job.
Yeah, exactly. The last thing we want to do here is you have some questions. You have some topics, some things you want to bring up, some things on your mind. You have a list for Chris and I. So, Nick, I hand over hosting duties to you. Take us home with your questions, your observations.
All right. Well, I think we've touched on most of them. Number 1, my question is, do Iñaki and Jake Fernley need me to donate a shoulder? Because I will immediately. No questions asked. I mean, I don't know what's going on over there.
Let me ask you this. On your donor list, who gets one first?
Oh, that's tough. That's a hard one. I would have said Iñaki about 2 months ago, but I don't know. Fernley looks real good on that camera.
So you're the common man. You're the layman. You're telling me Fernley's stock is on the rise.
I don't know how much higher it can get. I mean, yes, it is on the rise.
The better question is, TCU and Virginia play. Do Pedroso and Roditi agree ahead of time to play the 2 underhand guys against each other?
100%. 100%.
I mean, it's just got to be a gentleman's agreement.
They do it for a marketing thing, like 100%. That's smart stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, carry on, Nick.
All right, we've gone long here, so I'll.
No. I want to hear all of them. I'm excited.
Okay, so my other one was like, who's the team that's going to take out the top 4? At indoors, it was Arizona took out Texas. Is it Arizona and Wake? Like, are one of those 4 teams going to drop before the semis? That was like a question to me. Can anyone do that? Because I don't think anyone out of the top 4 are going to win, but I think that there are a few teams good enough to take out the top 4.
So Chris, answer it like this: most likely of those top 4 to lose in your mind, and the team most likely to beat them. It's a good question, by the way, Nick. A very good one.
Yeah, I mean,
I want to hear your answer.
They've all shown vulnerabilities for different reasons. There's questions about health with TCU, questions about health with, Iñaki. I honestly, at this point, I think Texas is coming on and is probably, I think they and Ohio State are probably the least likely to get knocked off prior to the semis, and that potentially, based on lineups, that it could happen to Virginia or TCU. And yeah, golly, the most likely team to do it, I mean, like you said, Arizona did it to Texas. But I still feel like I still feel in my mind that Wake or Tennessee is probably the team to do it.
Yeah, I'd go Kentucky and Wake. Most likely. I think Texas is the one team who.
Yeah, it's a good call with Kentucky. Yeah, I think Kentucky's prime to knock someone off with. They get a good doubles or like I said, I think they take 2 of the bottom 3 every time, and if they can split the top, they can do it.
And then Arizona has to be there because we've seen it already this year, and that team will just punch you in the face. Nick, what's your answer to this question?
I mean, I saw Wake in person too. They were very good. I think Wake and Arizona. I don't know if either team has the consistency or depth to do it for more than a match. So I think it's still the top four, and I agree, Chris. I think it's probably Ohio State and Texas who you feel best about. Although we saw Texas lose, they've been really good as of late. So probably Wake or Arizona would be my teams.
I like to hear it. Next question on the list.
Okay, I've got 3 more questions. One serious, tennis related. The other 2 more fun.
All right, let's save the 2 fun for.
I'm going to save the 2 fun ones. So
right,
the one thing, I mean, Ohio State at indoors. I mean, once you got into singles, couldn't do much against them. But I mean, doubles, I think they lost every doubles point, and I saw a lot of lineup switching. So I just wondered, like, at NCAAs, what do you think their dubs lineup is, and like, what would your 3 teams be?
We ask this every week. This is how you know he's a Gruskin, Chris Halioris. It's our Week 11 update. Singles, doubles lineup. What are you playing? 6 Bernies?
Yeah, no, that's the one place I don't play my Bernies. I reserve my Bernies for singles only. I don't. Yeah, I think I like going back to where you came from. I like the Kingsley Tracy. Cash Boulet. I think I get back to where we were and try that again.
Yeah. Nick?
Yeah, I like those 2 teams. I mean, they played Nakashima a little bit. He's a big dude, and he looked good. He looked good in dubs when I saw him. Luciano's obviously good server as well. So I like those teams. I don't know. I mean, at indoors they were playing Burn. It was an interesting. I saw some Bernie in there. I don't know what they do, but I mean, I don't know if their 30-minute war cry before the match. I don't know if that's. I mean, they're looking. They're storming the beaches of Normandy. I mean, they're not. It's crazy, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think I go Cash at 1 with anyone. I think I'm putting him at Tracy because Tracy's just the mindset. Like he's a 1, and he hasn't ever gotten to play 1 in singles. I'm putting him in Cash, the All-American champs at 1 doubles. I know Lucianic and Kingsley just hasn't seemed to work, but like it should be working, even though it isn't. Boulet some weapons as well, but I think him and Kingsley, it's too stoic of a pairing. I'm going Boulet and Bernie at 2 and just letting it rip and letting the lefties do their thing. And then I'm going Lucianic Kingsley at 3.
Oh.
I'm sticking with that lineup.
Down 1-0 to start.
Yeah, you're out.
No, you guys are wrong. They
Boulet
should stay. I know they
Bernie?
tried it earlier
Boulet
in the
and
year.
Bernie is
They tried
That's
it,
the
I
worst
think, earlier
doubles
in the
team
year.
I've ever
Yeah.
heard.
No, you guys are wrong. The lefties are just going to be out there making life uncomfortable.
So
Or Lucianic. How about this then? Lucianic and Boulet back together again at 2, and Kingsley and Bernie at 3, who just make a million balls.
Kingsley and Nakashima. Get Bernie out of the doubles lineup.
No, I want my Bernie odd L10s. What about singles, Nick? What's your Ohio State singles lineup if you are choosing heading into May?
I have some thoughts on this.
Give the takes. Come on, let it rip before we have.
First of all, Tracy should be playing 1. He's their best. No, he shouldn't be playing 1 for strategy because Cannon is the same as Fenty. You put him at 1 through 4, and it's like probably similar. Like I'm putting Tracy at 1. Maybe I'm putting. Are we indoors or outdoors?
We're outdoors.
Outdoors.
Okay. In terms of who I think is like if they play challenge matches,
no. What's your lineup? You get to set it. Ty hands you the paper. He says, Nick, I liked your contributions during the team indoors. You were locked in.
First of all, Boulet's playing left bench, and I'm putting probably Tracy, Cannon, Bernie, Anthrop. Probably Anthrop, Bernie. I don't know. Outdoors, maybe probably Bernie first. No, then actually Boulet, and then probably Cash or Nakashima.
Or no, you forgot.
Or whoever I'm missing.
Boulet's your 6. No, you forgot Cash. I lied. You're right.
Yeah.
Cash is your 6. Boulet's your 5.
But I mean, like I think their back half of their lineup, honestly, like probably 2 ones. Their front half.
Let me just ask you again. No, you know what? I'm not going to get you in trouble. We can leave that there. Again, it's not unfair to say because Anthrop was like 9 in the country, and Bernie was a quarterfinalist last year. And so, like, again, the margins between them all are so thin. Chris, you like that lineup?
I would never play that lineup. I would leave it much closer to where it is, and I'm leaving Bernie as low as I can.
I think it makes sense what they're doing. I'm just thinking in terms of like how it would play out if they actually like played each other. I think that's like closer to what it is.
I mean, I would probably move. I might move Bernie to 5 and play Cash 6 and or Nakashima, depending on what Ty thinks of those two guys. But I'd still stick with you know, Kingsley, Boulay, Tracy, Anthrop, Bernie, Cash / Nakashima, and take my chances.
Any permutation of the top 5, I'm fine with. Like, you can put them in any order on any given day. That's how good they all are. They're tier 3 in the guy conversation. It's just literally Ohio State. Yeah.
They're amazing.
That was really well said. All right, give us the final 2. Chris, you're gonna like these.
Okay. So I'm asking you this one first, Chris. So Alex is quite the doubles player. I played singles in high school, but I can play dubs.
You can operate.
Which pair of brothers do you think is the worst matchup for us in dubs? Is it the Baileys, the Braswells, the Krugs, the Von der Schulenbergs, or the Monsees?
Who's the worst matchup? Meaning
because I think right now Alex and I are holding serve with the Krugs for at least a few games.
Oh, you're getting absolutely pummeled by the Braswells.
I've seen them live. I mean, I saw what Arizona did to that team. I mean, I
don't think they're the most skilled doubles team, but I think they're going to hit the ball way too hard.
I think Micah would put a forehand through my chest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they would have no mercy with you guys.
But here's the counter: the Braswells really like me. Like, and I say that with love. I really like Micah and Jonah, but like I'm pretty close with the Braswells. So
Gruskin,
Micah
I
will
love you, and if I could put a ball through your chest, I would.
That's true. I'm saying Micah might have the look to pull the trigger and be like, I'm not going to hurt him because he's a good guy.
I want no part of the Von der Schulenbergs.
I think the Von der Schulenbergs beat us so badly. I think that's the worst match. That's like we weren't meant to go up against the Swiss. Like the Swiss are just like too professional, too like. I mean, Henry. I'd be like Hank. I mean, come on, Hank. Like, Jeffrey might be playing around. Hank's got classes to get to. Like, he's got no time for our nonsense. I think they destroy us. I would like to play the Krugs straight up. No, they would obviously beat us very badly as well. But again, lefty,
maybe we can just put this one out there and get Dickie V to host it or something.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of good pairings over the years. Again, these would be very fun. I also think him and I would beat you and Trevor, like pretty soundly as well, if we want to put that out there also, just so you know. I think that's a really fun one. I think first of all these teams beat us very badly. I think the Von der Schulenbergs beat us worse. I think it would be very bad. I think that like
I agree. It's either them or the Braswells because
it just depends how hard does Micah want to hit it at us. You're right.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen your second serve, Al. We're going 2 back on it.
We're going. You're too young to remember the Coach Schilling, Dave Schilling, who's now at
Denison.
Denison. Thank you. Who did the one server and then the other player was behind the server to guarantee like a forehand was hit no matter what. And like that's what we'd be doing on my servers. You'd actually be standing behind me, and we'd be like, "All right, I'm gonna freaking fly left, you fly right, and we both get backhands." And so that's the only way we have a shot. I do think you could hold once because my hands are fine at the net, and you have a good serve, and you're lefty. I think you could hold once. The Braswells would be tough. It would just be tough. No matter what. I mean, the Krugs are both 6'6". That's not going to be easy.
Yeah, that's true. I don't really want any part of that one either.
Yeah, that's not going to be fun. But, I mean, it'd be very fun. I think that's a good one. What's your last question?
Okay.
Chris,
I'll
this
ask
is a
both
big one.
You guys. I'll ask both of you guys this. I have my answer as well. You're bringing one college tennis coach with you to a bar fight, 2v2. Who are you taking?
Clancy Shields.
Let me just say, I know Nick's answer, so I want to.
Let me think about that a little more. His answer is
so good, and the answer why, Chris, I laughed about this for like 30 minutes last night. I kept retelling it too out loud. I was like, oh, that's really funny.
I mean,
I've been on the other end of a Clancy slap. It's thunderous. So that's a good answer.
He's in there. I'll tell you, I'm not going to back down from taking Ty with me. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, he'll be bench pressing as he's fighting.
Yeah, I have no problems with him.
Clancy's a great pick. You know who I'd take sneaky to go full circle? Cedric's a dog. Like Cedric's not quitting. Like he could get hit in the face, and like he might be one of those guys who laughs. else. And he's like, all right, I didn't know it was a hit in the face sort of fight. Like, let's go. And so he's sneaky on that list. Howie Endelman, sneaky on that list. Like, Howie, another one who, like, you hit him once, Bonfiglio's the answer. Duh. Bonfiglio is, like, if Nick provokes him, might fight Nick in the crowd during a pen match, ideally.
If I'm wearing this shirt.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No, Bonfiglio's a good pick as well. God, they're all good picks. Again, do you want to hear Nick's pick, Chris, or do you want to give yours?
No, go ahead. Let's hear it, Nick.
So I was down
You
to
have
3.
two answers?
So Ty was the obvious one. I'm taking him too because I want that guy on my team.
Yeah.
My second one was Steiny because if I happen to land a punch, I'm just going to yell Michigan. And I just want to see what happens in his reaction. Like if I just let's go blue as I just like pound on someone.
Like,
but
one kick to the knee and it's over.
That's true. I don't know. Nice left jab and I yell Michigan. We're in it. We're fighting. And then my third one, and I think this is my winner, was I'm taking Roditi because win or lose afterwards and probably lose, I'm going on the Roditi report. I'm going on. He puts me on there. Hey, Frog fans. Had a tough one out there. You can see my lip is bleeding. We'll be back battling tomorrow. And I'm going on the report. I'm saying my piece and we're moving on. So I'm taking Roditi. I'm going on the Twitter.
That's so good. The imagery of like a bloody lip, you and him be like, hey, Frog fans.
Hey, Frog fans.
Yeah.
Gruskin, I'll give you the sneaky good answer from the not top 10, top 20 teams that I'm going to take.
Okay.
Because it's him against the world. Jimmy B.
Oh, well, that's such a good pick. That's such a good pick. Jimmy Borodame from Middle Tennessee. Great pick. Guy you'd want on your side. Can I give you another sneaky one? He's too nice and he'd never throw a punch. But if you got him angry enough to where he is fighting, I want Grant Chen in a fight on my side. Like, I don't want to be on the other side of Grant Chen because if you got him so mad that he's like swinging, you freaking did something. And like, I would just like to be like, oh my God, I didn't know you had that in you, Grant. And he's like, yeah, it's just, again, anyone who talks trash about Dallas, I can't say that. This fighters mean a lot to me. He's not short. He's properly sized, or whatever it may be. Like, that's good. Forever, the idea of a Roditi report. Hey, Frog fans.
I'm telling you, we got black eyes. I get on the Twitter. Hey, Frog fans. Had a tough one out there.
He started off a little slow. Like the left hook wasn't where it needed to be, but slowly but surely found
the takedown, Frog fans. We'll see you next week.
Go Frogs.
I almost came on the podcast today. Like, I mean, I was I know I was supposed to be 9:45, ran a little late. To get myself pumped up, I just pulled up Twitter. Was on the TCU and Twitter.
I'm just so happy you at the world knows.
I'm putting on the hat too. I'm doing everything. If I was ever good enough to play tennis, I would commit to TCU immediately.
I like it. Yeah, that's good. All right, that's 2 hours. Any final thoughts before we wrap today's show? Chris Halioris, any final things for Nick?
No. You wore me out, Nick.
What do you grade his performance?
We need to have him back. I mean,
all right, that's good. I agree. And listeners in the chat, if you're still with us, thank you. You tell me now, did Nick Gruskin earn a return appearance? I'll tell you what, Nick, you drew a response from a coach, which we agreed that was the parameters of if you draw one, I view it as a success. Cedric did message, so it's a success. But for all of those of you still with us in the chat, let us know, should we see more Nick Gruskin here, as he's got a month and a half left of school. Again, he's taken a class and a half, so now is the time for us to get him. Nick, it's good to see your smiling face. Hopefully we will hear more of you.
Good to see you, Al. Is this the new studio?
Yeah, do you like it?
It's nice.
You like the lights?
It's very nice.
Wait, you like the I Am Batman?
Yeah, I do. You got the Virginia. I've seen all these hats, the Pacers sweater. It's a classic.
This is actually former Virginia assistant Scott Brown. It's a little memento for him. So we have him back, and yeah, we got the topspin tennis balls with the lights in the back. It was all West stuff. Like,
you gonna get a guitar for Torp? Put that thing in the back.
He signed it. It's gonna hang. You just can't see it right now. That's pretty good.
I could stunt double for Torp right now.
Yeah,
he's a big. Talk about another big. I mean, when you see these guys in person, like Torp's a big guy.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Chris. You get us on the holiday card every year. Rank the three Gruskin brothers in terms of handsomeness.
Oh, come on. Nick wins. There's no doubt.
Yeah, he's so cute. Those cheeks. I know. He's just so handsome. The best was we had a coach at indoors. I won't say who. I'll tell you after. Who looks at Nick and looks at me and goes, "That's a Gruskin?" And I was just like, "Oh yeah, it was a clear giveaway." And so, yeah, again, anyways, shout out to you, Nick, for joining us. Shout out to you, Chris, who you can all hear Friday, Sunday on the SEC broadcast. Of course, a shout out, as always, to our super producer, Daniel Westoff, as well. Makes everything you see on our screen possible. With that said, that will do it for a 2-hour Week 11 recap of everything happening in the Division One men's college tennis world for the professor, Chris Halioris. Oh, by the way, Chris, what sort of a job does Westoff have to do?
Hey, can I say that on YouTube?
Oh, yeah, fuck it. You can say it.
Oh, wow. He's got a fuck of an editing job.
Yeah, if you made it 2 hours, you deserve that. So shout out to all of you who made it. Nick, what sort of a job does he have to do?
Oh, he's fucked.
Yeah, I like it. So shout out to him as always. But with all that said, and remember, it's hey, great shot at the end for the fantastic Nick Gruskin, for the professor Chris Halioris, our super producer Daniel Westoff, and from all of us here at both Cracked Rackets and the Tennis Channel Podcast Network. I'm your host, Alex Gruskin. Gentlemen, what do we tell our listeners?
Hey,
Hey,
great shot.
Great shot.
And we will see you all next week. Thanks, everyone.